from ala wazni fa'ala, which means that there's two people doing it.
Yeah.
So there's in every language there's something called morphology. Yeah. The morphological root of the word qatal is from this term, which means that there has to be two people doing it. It's different to the Arabic word uqtul, which means to kill them, which is also there in the Quran, in the battlefield context. But in this particular verse, in chapter 9, verse 29, this word is being used, which means that both people are fighting each other already. So it cannot indicate that you're fighting a civilian or a non-combatant or something like that, because in the very word itself, the morphological root indicates that there are two people fighting each other.
Yeah.
So this is, as you've mentioned, it's the battlefield context.
Yeah.
It's not a civilian context or a non-combatant context.
But there seemed to be a misunderstanding, because she said recently there was a priest who was murdered in Egypt, and that the people who did it may have been motivated by that thing in the Quran.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's think about the general picture, right? The general picture is that Egypt, as you know, I'm from Egypt myself, actually. But Egypt is a country with 10 million Coptic Christians, okay? Now, if Islam stated, if you want to make a historical argument, the question is, why are there any Coptic Christians there in the first place? Shouldn't they have all been wiped out when the Islamic conquest happened some, 1,000 years ago, 1,400 years ago, at the time of Amr ibn al-As, when he was the commander, he went into Egypt. So the fact that you've got probably as many Christians in Egypt, almost as there are in this country, actually. I said, in this country, it's like maybe 30-40% Christians, that according to the newest Pew research, right? And if there's 80 million, I don't know, what's 20 million of 16 million, 17 million. So there's probably a very similar amount of Christians in Egypt as there is in England, which is something historical, something very interesting. In the last 1,000 years, that's never happened. But the fact that you've got that many Christians in Egypt and that they still have their communities is actually a historical proof against those who say that Islam was a religion that came to try and annihilate Christian people and kill them because they're not Muslim. Clearly the Quran doesn't say that. La ikraha fi din. The Quran says in chapter 2 verse 256, there's no compulsion in religion. But more so, even the Orientalists admit this. I mean, for example, Thomas Arnold Walker, who wrote The Preaching of Islam, when he's an Orientalist who wrote maybe like 80 years ago or something like that. And he has a chapter dedicated to the conquest of Egypt. And he speaks about that, and he says that basically that the Christians were given their right, that Umar ibn al-Khattab who was the caliph at the time in the Islamic Empire, had a system to ensure that they were given their rights, and so on. So what she or other people are saying goes against the historical reality of the fact, that these communities, are there in the Arab world or the Muslim world, and continue to be there, have been there for a long time, and continue to be there. You see the point?
I do understand.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned correctly, if this was true, then it would have been all Muslims would have been doing it to all Christians, especially in Muslim majority lands, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah. That was a nice one. That's a good one today.
Ramadan Kareem. I don't know if you remember me.
No, I can't. You can't.
So did mine.
Oh, okay, mashallah.
They
Yes.
still go to
Yeah, but we could talk after about where our kids went to school. Not in front of the cameras, right?
No, I thought you were finished with the brother. I just wanted to say
No.
Ramadan
Look.
Kareem and
Thank you, brother. I can't see your face even. Show me later. All right.
I'm going to be off in a bit anyway. I just came by because my son sometimes comes and helps brother Hashim is it?
Yeah.
Hashim with the camera. So I thought it was here, so I was passing by. So then I called him and he said, "Oh, Dad, I didn't come today." I thought, okay. But then I saw you and it was lovely to see you.
Mashallah, good to see you too, but I don't know who you are still. But one day you can show me your face and I'll know who you are.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalaam. But let me finish. I'm done with this guy. It's Ramadan. I don't really want to upset myself.
Mohammed, I'm not having
I don't want to upset. I don't want to upset myself.
I've been in Egypt. I know about Egypt.
I don't want to upset myself, brother. I don't want to upset myself.
You think I'm gonna?
What do you want? What do you want?
I just wanted to say,
What do you
because it's
want,
Shahr Ramadan, they say you shouldn't beef with your brothers. First of all, it's a unity thing. It's important. That's number one. Jama'ah. Second of all, I ain't got nothing against you. Every time someone says Hamad Hijab, I say it's calm. Do you understand? Because my cousin is half Egyptian, bro. I know about Egypt. I've been to Egypt. I know the Egyptian people. Do you understand? I want to say to you, there's a few things. Last time I chatted to you was time ago. But there's a few things that the guy last week when he was chatting to him, I think he didn't know much. Yeah. So when you said that we believe that Muawiyah is kafir, that's not true.
Okay.
We don't believe he's kafir. But what we believe that once it's just because it's a misconception. We don't believe he's kafir. That's why Imam Hassan and Hussein gave bay'ah. Hussein even gave bay'ah to him, because we don't say that kafir you're not, but we believe Yazid was a kafir.